Welcome to the Woodland Corpses Horror Podcast. This is Woodland Corpses Horror Podcast, and we are in conversation with Caitlin Starling today. Thank you so much for joining us. How you doing, Caitlin?
I'm doing. It is, we're coming straight out of spooky season. Unsurprisingly, between a book release and like general October festivities, I had way too much on my schedule, and I am just starting to come up for air. Immediately walked into a wall of copy edits as well
Oh,
for the
okay.
next book, but
Well, I mean that's great, but oh wow, yeah, that's
the
so
timing is
yeah,
tough.
yeah. I think this. I don't know what it has been with the last couple of weeks have just been so weird, and yeah, the spooky season. But like you as an author with just walking into copy edits for your next book, that's kind of exciting though.
Mhm.
Um, so Graceview Patient just released.
Yep,
Um, like last week, yeah. I
a
think.
couple weeks ago, October 14th.
Okay. See, I don't even know what day it is. But we'll roll with it. Um, I got to read an early copy. I was very excited about that, and I loved it. Um, do you want to just like kind of tell me like, what was the inspiration? How did Graceview Patient even come about?
So some of it I can't really answer because it's like a crucial spoiler of like how I determined what the antagonist in the book is. But generally speaking, I have 3 years ago, 3.5 years now, I had my kid. It was unexpectedly dramatic. It involved multiple day stay for me, longer stay for him in the hospital. It has all the makings of like a horrific birth trauma story that there are so many of out there, except it was not traumatic because I had a fantastic care team and um I have a fair amount of medical literacy, so even the bits where maybe it wasn't explained well to me, I could fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
But overall, it really was. I had some fantastic nurses, and it gave me, especially visiting my kid in the NICU, gave me a lot of time to reflect on how weird hospitals are as a place. Um, and I've always been drawn to medical things, both in my media consumption, reading doctors' memoirs, lurking on our anesthesiology, that sort of thing, as well as creatively. And I probably sometime in the research for the death of Jane Lawrence, which is more to do with Victorian era medical stuff. I was, or maybe it was when I was reading The Butchering Art by, I want to say Lindsay Fitzpatrick. That might be wrong. But when I was reading The Butchering Art,
Yeah.
it covers the development of the hospital as a concept, and how I guess what I will say is it is important to the book that hospitals have always been a place where you are in a race to fix what's wrong with you and get you out before something worse can happen. um, Victorian era stuff, that means sepsis and gangrene and all that fun stuff. And then in the Graceview Patient, that might also include ghosts and terrible things inside the hospital. So that's where the idea initially came about. And I was influenced too. I wanted to write a hospital, like a contemporary hospital setting, but I didn't want the villains to be like evil nurses and doctors, which
Yeah.
made it a little bit more challenging because you already have a very potentially passive main character, right? She is going through medical treatment. She is confined to her hospital room most of the time. And how do you make that engaging if you don't have, a human antagonist going, twirling his mustache evilly while he fills out something in epic?
Yeah.
Um, so again, like how I solved that is kind of, you will find out over the course of the book. But there was that, and then also very early on I decided to intentionally structure the book like a gothic novel where the hospital stands in for the manor house. The the cryptic groundskeeper is a environmental services guy, cleaning guy.
Yeah,
the
I caught that. I like that.
yeah, the sexy but bad idea scion of the family is the pharma representative.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And that was just a, it felt, it was very natural for me. B, it felt really fun, and C, it kind of helped me fill in gaps when I needed something to happen in the book. I knew I needed some kind of plot movement. I could go back to traditional Gothics and be like, okay, what does the ghost do now?
Yeah. I so for me, because you talk about like, like your obsession with, our anesthesiology and stuff like that, as someone who themselves has like chronic illness and has been like stuck in the medical system for so long, I appreciated your superb attention to detail. And I think when I wrote my review of this a couple of months ago, I think I mentioned it in the review about how like you even remembered like the little chlorhexidine patch between uh the 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 port and her skin. And I was like, nobody does detail like Caitlin Starling does detail.
For this book, I really have to like huge thank you to my friend Kathleen, who I hired as a nurse consultant for the book. She has a background as an ER nurse. And she's the one who, I could find some stuff out just by Googling and by lurking on specialty forum boards. But a lot of it came down to her being like, okay, this is how you would actually do this procedure. This is what it would look like step by step. This is the name of this element like involved in this weird hack you're doing with a lure lock. And without her, I could not have gotten to the level of detail that I wanted. Because yeah, I wanted to have like I didn't want to hand wave the medical stuff if we're having a book set in a hospital. I feel like the
Yeah.
details are part of the fun.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I think it made it more relatable for me as somebody with my own medical whatever, but it made it so realistic that you took the time to get those details just right. And and I think it makes a difference in the story, and obviously without giving anything away, it definitely makes a difference, a lot of it. But yeah. My brain, you can tell I'm tired. I am so sorry. But the medical trauma aspect of it, like for me, that's like a big part of it. It was like, yeah, it's like this gothic hospital horror. And then you can see like how some things just go wrong, and it's so relatable to like real world stuff. You're not like, it's not like this, oh, otherworldly, this is never going to happen. Like there's some serious like stuff that you're like, that could actually happen if you go into a hospital, or anything
mhm.
like that. Um, and I guess I was just like thinking, like you told me about your friend Kathleen, um, but like Meg as a person,
Mhm.
how did Meg come about? And how did her trauma, like without obviously giving away all the good parts of the story, we don't want to spoilers, but like how did that kind of, you know, Meg as an inspiration, Meg as a person?
Yeah, Meg is an amalgamation of many different people that I've known, both people with, chronic health issues and chronic disability, as well as, family members who have gone through long hospitalizations. My mother had HIV for, she was in treatment for 8 years for it. And I went with her to clinic appointments and things like that as a little kid. So, like, I don't remember a lot of the details, but kind of being in that environment. But a lot of it too is reading accounts of people and having friends who go through the sort of alienation that Meg has gone through, both kind of from her community and from healthcare systems and from herself in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And some of that is also just very close at hand. Like it is an easy thing to reach for and to embody, sort of, especially while coming up with a horror narrative where horror narratives are easier when a character is cut off from
Yeah.
everyone around them. And Gothic narratives in particular have um, this common element of being isolated in terms of means and in terms of what options you have available to you, while also being observed by people who may not have your best interests in heart or may have power over you in some way, whether it's, you know, the family that you've just married into or the townspeople or something else in the classic Gothic. There's always a sense of being watched and evaluated.
Hmm.
And so all of that played into making Meg, who is very prickly, very isolated. Both people have abandoned her. They kind of have hit this point of like, wow, so you're not getting better. That's kind of a bummer. I don't know what to do with that. And
Yeah.
then there's also an element to the people who did stick around. She's taken her anger at the situation she's in out on them in some ways because they're a reminder of how screwy her life has gotten. Um, and yeah, a lot of Meg was very interesting because I had to figure out, you know, at least a little bit of what she was like before her experience of the world got dominated by this thing she's dealing with. And I never went into a ton of detail, even in my own mind. Like she likes watching weird tool restoration videos on YouTube, which are based off of one particular guy's YouTube channel, because why not?
Yeah.
And things like that. But like, and then she has a really weird relationship with her mother, which is courtesy of another friend who graciously was like, "Oh yeah, you can just paint with broad brushstrokes. My family trauma. Go for it." Um, but a lot of it too is, you know, she's reduced herself down where I don't think even she could reach back to like what her old hobbies were. To a certain extent, you know, especially this is a very different avenue of getting to the same place. But since having a kid and since the pandemic and since a couple other things, like there are definitely I don't know how, like who I was 5 years ago, and I could not tell you what that was like. And Meg has a little bit of that in her too.
Yeah. I love that too. And especially like with, yeah, back to being the gothic and being observed and all that stuff is so much like being in a hospital and being just constantly observed by people. So, um, yeah, and that feeling of not knowing who you were, I think it works for her. Um, and I have to talk about Last to Leave the Room real quick because I am your obsessive crazy fan who loved that book so much. Um, your inspiration for that, and for anybody who has not read it, go read it. It's Last to Leave the Room. It's wonderful. There's even an Evernight edition, which is beautiful and has these crazy cats on it.
The
Um,
paperback has the cats too.
does it?
Yes, the
Okay.
paperback they it is a different like color scheme and has different title treatment, but they licensed the art to be able to use for the paperback
See, now you
because
shouldn't.
Illumicrate because Evernight nailed it. So
I'm gonna have to go get the paperback now because I have a problem, clearly. Um, but your and I'm sure you've gone over this a million times too, but like your inspiration for just how wacky and mind-bending that one went. Um, can you give me any insight into that one?
so Tamsin, who's the main character in that book, which I like to call work from home doppelganger horror for anyone who needs a quick pitch for it. Um, like there's a lot of Zoom meetings, there's a lot of weird gender feelings about looking at like your double who's performing femininity differently than you and being like, this makes me uncomfortable, but also kind of like I want to tell her what to do. Um, but that one honestly came from Tamsin is based off a character I came up as a very edgy teenager. And I can't go into too much detail without massively spoiling it, but I will say there's a major event in the book that changes Tamsin's outlook on life and herself. And this character, Seleucid, in my edgy teenage years, starts at that point.
Okay.
Um, and so for me, a lot of that book was okay, how do I want to write this character, but like I can't just start here. Like that's fine for Gaia online role playing, like having this weird immense life-shattering event happen right before that and then she's starting to untangle what happened in her life before that. That's fine. In this, I wanted to do the lead up to it.
Hmm.
Um, and so like that was my challenge for myself in that book is how can I, you know, this thing that I liked about this character I came up with when I was 14. How can I still like this character from a different angle? Um, which yeah, that might be too wibbly wobbly and vague, but it's hard to talk about that book. There's a thing that happens at like the 2/3 mark that changes a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but that book was really interesting because actually my publisher had turned down two other books that I had pitched them. And I finally was like, okay, well, then tell me what you will say yes to. And my editor and I got on a call, talked through some ideas, and lastly, through was one we settled on. And so, it wasn't a passion project to start with,
Hmm.
but it like it is full of stuff that I have always been interested in, like stuff about memory and identity and weird science. I did have to confront while I was writing that book that I do not understand physics. I was trying to come up with like a realistic geological explanation for something that goes on in that book, and I had to be like, okay, I cannot. And so therefore these characters also will not be able to figure it out, and that will be upsetting.
Yeah.
Like I'll just give them my confusion. They can have it as a treat. Um, but yeah, it was an interesting book because it was one that I was very much building piece by piece as I was writing it to try and hit a deadline that kind of became something more as it all came together.
Yeah. It works, dude. It seriously works. I love it. And
And
I
if you
know.
if anyone listening has also read The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey, those two books are like they are. I had to wait to read it until after I turned it in just because I was too afraid they would be too similar and I didn't want to know. Um, they are definitely related. Gailey and I definitely were on the same brainwave about a couple things. They're both books about uh, ambitious, kind of arrogant, bitchy scientists who are confronted with their clone slash doppelganger. Um, and what unfolds is very different in both of the books, but it's like, oh yeah, no, these are cousins. And the audiobooks are both read by Xe Sams.
Oh,
So
nice. Well, see,
it's a,
now
it's a
now
great double feature.
now you have added to my TBR. Thank you.
I'm sure it needed help.
No, my God, it's gonna outlive me. I know it is. Um,
There's a thing in knitting called I don't think I'm going to get it right, but it's I think it's sable. It's stash like above and beyond life expectancy or something like that. Like it's literally like as it's when you have enough yarn that you will never be able to knit it all. But I'm on the side of you are curating a mini yarn store for yourself. Just like a TBR, you're curating your particular bookstore or library
yeah.
so that you've down selected from um everything out there.
I forgot that you knit. I forgot.
Oh
So
yeah.
so that cracks me up because I'm currently reading Crafting for Sinners.
Oh yeah.
Have you read that?
I have not, but I have it sitting on my shelf. It's waiting for me.
And it's funny because I started reading that and I read Murder by Memory by Olivia Waite right before that, and there was knitting in that as well, like a yarn store. And I'm like, there is a theme, and now I'm talking to Caitlin Starling.
I still haven't found a way to put my knitting in a book, and maybe that's good. Maybe it's okay that my knitting stays purely like outside my publishing experience, aside from when I get cool themed yarn dyed by very cool people.
You could you could work it in somehow, but then maybe you're right. Maybe it's like keeping the knitting out keeps the knitting pure.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe. Um, so Starving Saints came out, Oblivion Bride came out. Now you're going to have more books in the Starving Saints universe.
Hmm.
Uh, do
And I've got
you
and I've got a vampire book out next year. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
When do you sleep? When do you sleep? Never.
When my kid sleeps. Like yeah, we're not making our way through any TV shows right now. It is all hands on deck. No, realistically, so this has been the biggest kind of push season of having three
Yeah.
books out in one year. I would prefer to never do that again. Right now, it doesn't look like that will ever happen again. I have a vampire novel out next fall, and then I have to like write the next Starving Saints universe book, but that's not coming out till 2028. So things will slow down a little bit,
Yeah. You might get some time to breathe.
maybe. Yeah.
Sleep. So are you excited, or is there anything like what excites you about the horror genre right now? Like, I mean, besides yourself trying to get some sleep somewhere in between all of the horror that you are uh bringing about into the horror genre. And then like is the next one in the Starving Saints universe, is that like it's not purely horror. I didn't see it listed as horror. I saw it listed as like fantasy. What do you
Yes.
think it is?
So on the first thing of what I'm excited about in general,
Yeah.
I like that there's a lot of like a room of what's considered horror now. I have always uh been hesitant to claim being a horror author. Like I would like to say that I am, but sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not. Maybe someone's gonna tell me that, you know, what I write isn't actually horror. Um and like I feel like the genre is now expanding enough that people who don't think they usually like horror have realized they do like certain kinds of horror, which is basically where I'm at. It was very funny. I was on a different podcast where it was about like formative horror things you consumed as a kid. And I realized I've been consuming horror my entire life intentionally and enjoying it. I just kept always saying, oh, I liked that, but I'm not into horror. Like
Yeah.
I'm too scared to like horror. And it's like, okay, but you keep watching horror movies
Yeah.
and like really getting excited about them. And then you just kind of back off on trying something new. So I think that, and part of that I think is because when I was a teenager, it was like the height of Saw. And that
Oh
was
my God,
not my
yeah.
type of horror. And so I was like, oh, well, if I'm not into Saw, then I'm probably not into horror. Um, but yeah, so I like the breadth of the genre. I wish I had more time to read in it because right now, a lot of the time, I'm reading only stuff that I'm doing events for with other authors or things like that.
Yeah.
But going to like StokerCon last summer was fantastic of just horror writers are huge nerds. Like we just accumulate things that we're interested in, kind of like the medical stuff for me. And
Yeah.
then it just sort of creeps through all of our work and it's fun. For the sequel to Starving Saints, it's not really a sequel, it's a companion novel.
Mm-hmm.
I want to stress that it's not a sequel just because like it's not about Fosine, Voin, and Trela,
Yeah.
and it's not about the castle, and it's not about the same antagonists. But it's in the same world, and having read Starving Saints, you will catch on to some stuff early, and there are some cameos. In my mind, The Waking Stones, which is the at least the current title for that book, is also a horror novel, but it's a very different style, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not the same sort of like bacchanalian frenzy mind control type thing.
Okay.
Instead, so Starving Saints is all in one castle, and the companion book is essentially nobody gets to go inside buildings. Not like purely, but
Yeah.
it is, you know, it's another cast of of three women who variously hate and want each other in different ways. Um and then there's like also a nun who's kind of involved, but she's not a POV character all the time. The right now I haven't fully, you know, I've outlined it all and I know what the story is, but I haven't written it yet. So some things are still very murky in my brain.
Mhm.
But you know, they're dealing with a weird menacing force, think like Grendel and Beowulf style,
Okay.
but they are at first they're inside a town and eventually they are no longer welcome in that town, but the threat is not defeated, and so they are in a very bleak landscape trying to figure out, you know, they can't quite leave and they need to figure out what's going on and how to fix it and all that stuff. So it's riding that dark fantasy slash horror line.
Yeah.
I personally structured it to be horror. The way it got sent to Publishers Marketplace might mean that my publishers use it more in the dark fantasy area. It could go either way. I think there's probably also people who would say that Starving Saints isn't horror and that it's dark fantasy. So
Yeah.
it's a fun, weird genre, is bizarre. It probably will depend on is dark fantasy or horror selling more books the quarter that it comes out. Like,
Right.
but that's not going to really influence how I write the book. I'm steering it more towards horror just because um, I find you get tension more naturally through a horror structure. But we will see how it turns out.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you ever believe that you are not a horror writer. You can just remember that I'm telling you right now, no, you are a horror writer.
Oh, going to StokerCon helped because no one at StokerCon was like, "Why are you here?"
Yeah.
So that did help. But there was the imposter syndrome rears its head every so often.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think that happens with people with just like normal everyday stuff too. Like, and then just, humans doubt ourselves. Well,
Yeah.
normal humans doubt ourselves, I
Yeah.
think,
I
mostly.
I never like to claim I'm an expert at anything either. I think
Yeah.
it's a related like hesitancy to claim a label as opposed to having it be bestowed by consensus.
Yeah.
Um,
Caitlin Starling, horror writer extraordinaire. Sorry, you
Soundbite.
are. Yeah, that
Soundbite.
right there. That's the sound bite. I only have a couple minutes left. But I wanted to ask you, let me get my list of questions here. A couple of followers had the best gift a fan has ever gotten you.
It is right here, which you guys are going to see because I said don't post video because my office is a disaster right now. But I have on my wall a embroidered set of Death of Jane Lawrence hands with an actual ring stitched into it with the red thread that connects the hands to each other. And a reader just brought it to me at a pals event and was like, "I hope you don't mind. I made this for you." And it is the coolest thing I own. And it is on display. The second runner up is I have a hand bound copy of the Starving Saints, and it's
Oh,
not it's only
okay.
it's a runner up largely because I did end up paying for it.
Yeah.
um it was made like Witchy Fic Bindery on Instagram made it for herself,
Yeah.
and it's this beautiful like has a printed canvas cover, and like bright pink text, and it's just so beautiful, and beautiful marbled end pages look like meat. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, can I please commission you to make me a copy like that?" And she's like, "You can have this one. I'll make myself a new one." So that I have that as well. But
She
definitely like, the embroidery of those amazing too.
did she do one for Luminous Dead too?
Yes, I commissioned her to
Okay.
do a Luminous Dead. I wanted, so I have held out hope, and I still hold out hope that one day the Luminous Dead will get a special edition.
Yeah.
Um, I hope with all my heart, and but I got sick of waiting.
You're like, I'm making
And
my
Witchy
own.
Fic Bindery had made such a beautiful Starving Saints, and had read the Luminous Dead, and I was like, "Hey, can I pay you to make me a Luminous Dead hardcover?" And it's so cool. It glows in the dark.
That's awesome. Yeah, I saw a couple pictures you had posted and I wondered if that was the same person. It's
Yes,
gorgeous. It
yes.
really is. Um, so your next couple of years are absolutely crazy. Um, what do you want to do next? Do you
I
know? Sleep?
so really I want to knit a couple sweaters. I'm overdue for making some new sweaters. But in terms of like publishing and writing and stuff, um so I've got Breastfeeding Vampires book next year. I'm really happy. I'm excited that that's going to be off the table. I have to write Waking Stones. And then like honestly, I watched Flatliners like to do a promo writing piece for Graceview Patient, and
Mhm.
that's a movie with an incredible premise. Medical students basically killing themselves and bringing each other back so that they can like competitively talk about what death is like.
Yeah.
And it's really boring. It is so boring. The medicine's terrible. Nothing about the premise like got actually realized very well. And I would like to write a book with the same premise but do it better. Possibly fantasy, don't know. Possibly dark academia seems like a decent fit.
Yeah.
Don't know anything more than that, but that's like I've got my eyes on it. I sent my agent an email like, "Can I write a Flatliners book? Do you think the world is ready for a Flatliners book?" She's just like, "Do
Dude,
what you want. Do
that
it." Like
is
she's like, "I can't stop you."
like I'm dating I clearly I know what movie you're talking about. I am old enough to remember it. And yeah, I would be excited for that.
So like the thing with Flatliners too is like it's filmed at Loyola College in Chicago. or Loyola University. And if only they had leaned into the Catholic angle of it, if they're going to do a weird morality and sin movie. But instead,
Yeah.
it's like the most Protestant.
You're like, no.
Sorry, it's just, I'm
Yeah.
still
No,
mad. I'm
no, I
still mad.
get
I'm
it.
sure it has people who absolutely love it. I am not one of them.
Well, see, but see, now you said it. So now we need the flatliners, but better. The
Yeah.
flatliners with a Caitlin twist.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm down